I only came home after 3 years on the West Coast. The first welcome back came from my mother. The second came from Karen Thompson, the self-appointed queen of Peaceful Oaks, HOA, right before she slammed a stack of bright red violation notices against my chest and shoved me into the wall. She thought I was still the weak girl she used to terrorize with her clipboard and her made-up rules. But this time I came back with a hidden camera, a contract, and the deed to the 5-acre parcel my father had left me. The same parcel Karen had spent the last year trying to steal through forged papers and developer kickbacks. The flight home was one way, not for a family reunion, but to dismantle everything the HOA Karen thought was unbreakable. My name is Lena Rowan. For 10 years, I convinced myself I was running toward something, a career, a future, a life carved out of code and concrete in Seattle. It was only when the corporate letterhead told me I was being made redundant that I realized I had only ever been running away. I was 29, a senior tech architect for a boutique urban planning software firm swallowed by a $200 million Leviathan. My severance was generous, a golden parachute for a fall I hadn't seen coming. The official story I told my few friends and my mother over a stilted phone call was that I was taking a sabbatical. I'm coming home to Bay Ridge to rest, to find myself. The words tasted like ash. Home. The word itself was a lie. Peaceful Oaks, HOA in Bay Ridge, Missouri. Hadn't been home since I was 19. It was just a place where my ghosts lived, ghosts wearing pastel polo shirts and armed with measuring tapes. The truth was the layoff hadn't sparked the journey. It had merely provided the opportunity. For years a cold, hard knot of anger had sat in my gut, patient and coiled. Success and distance had only insulated it, never dissolved it. Now, with an empty calendar and a full bank account, the insulation was gone. The anger was awake, driving my rental from Springfield Airport. The lush, aggressive green of the Missouri landscape felt suffocating after Seattle's cool grays. The air grew thick and humid. Each mile closer, winding the clock back on a life I had tried to erase. I passed the same sleepy gas stations, the same peeling billboards. Nothing had changed. That was the town's curse, and I hoped my advantage. My father died when I was 16. He was a quiet landscape architect who taught me to see the bones beneath the surface. His death left a crater. My mother rushed to fill it with Karen Thompson. Karen had been Dad's occasional client, a booming-voiced real estate agent who somehow morphed into HOA President the year after the funeral. She was just there fixing a loose shingle, then a leaky faucet, then my mother's finances. Within a year, she had moved in next door and started treating our house like her personal fiefdom. Photos of my father came down one by one, replaced by HOA newsletters screaming about community standards. Karen never adopted me, never tried to be anything but an occupying force. Her control was insidious, a creeping vine of rules. It started with money. Let me handle the violations. Carol, she'd say, you've got enough on your plate. Soon every purchase was questioned. My college fund became shared community resources. When I needed money for textbooks, Karen grilled me for an hour. Couldn't you just use the library computer? We can't have residents setting bad examples. She made me feel like a parasite in my own home. The threats came later, always when my mother wasn't around. A hand on my shoulder gripping too tight. A low voice in my ear. Don't think you can pull one over on the HOA girl. I write the rules here. She never left a visible mark, but she branded my soul with fear and powerlessness. I left at 19 with a scholarship, 2 suitcases, and a vow never to be dependent again, pulling into the familiar gravel driveway. My heart hammered. The house looked smaller, the white paint dingier. The front door swung open before I could kill the engine. My mother stood there, thinner, smile strained. Lena, you're here. She gave me a papery hug that smelled of bleach and anxiety. Over her shoulder, A shadow filled the doorway. Karen. She had gained weight. Her HOA polo strained across her chest. Her smile was all teeth. Well, look what the cat dragged in. Her voice was unchanged, sandpaper on my nerves. I stepped inside. The air was stale with old arguments and the faint scent of Karen's signature lavender air freshener. I dropped my bag by the stairs. "It's good to see you, Karen." I lied. She took a step toward me, eyes scanning my Seattle clothes, my confident posture. She was looking for the scared girl she remembered. "Welcome back," she said, the words a sneer. Then her hand came up. It wasn't sudden, it was deliberate. The crack of her open palm across my cheek echoed through the foyer. My head whipped sideways, hair flying. A sharp heat bloomed on my skin. I stumbled back, shoulder hitting the wall. My ears rang. I tasted copper. I slowly turned my head back. Karen's face held smug satisfaction. "You're in my neighborhood now." The old rules still apply. My gaze flicked to my mother. She stood frozen, hands pressed her mouth, eyes wide with the same terrified helplessness I remembered from a decade ago. She didn't move. She didn't speak. In that moment, the last 10 years of my life crumbled. In their eyes, I was still 19. Weak, a problem to be managed. But as the sting sharpened into a throbbing ache, the cold knot in my gut uncoiled. This time it was ice, calculating, crystalline. Karen thought she had just reasserted power. She had no idea she had handed me the key to her destruction. The ringing in my ears subsided, replaced by the silent screaming inside my head. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I held Karen's gaze, letting her see the absolute stillness that had taken hold. The sting on my cheek was a grounding force, a hot reminder of pain I thought I had outrun. She had crossed a line she didn't even know existed, and in doing so unlocked a decade of carefully suppressed history. I was once sold piece by piece in the form of HOA fines. It began when I was 18. The first thing to disappear was my laptop, graduation gift from my father. I came home from my diner job to find my desk empty. When I confronted them, Karen just shrugged, cleaning her nails with a tiny HOA stamped pen. "Needed some quick cash for the community fund," she said. "You can use the library computer. Rules are rules." My mother twisted her wedding band. "It's just a thing. Honey, we're a family. We make sacrifices." "Whose sacrifice?" "My future." Pawned for $50 to cover one of Karen's emergency board meetings. A few weeks later, it was my phone, then the necklace my father gave me. Each time my mother's mantra was the same. It's just stuff. She didn't, or refused to, understand that Karen wasn't just selling belongings. She was erasing my father's memory, liquidating my past to fuel her HOA empire. And my mother was signing the receipts with her silence. I was collateral. The breaking point came a week after my 19th birthday. Karen came home drunk on cheap wine after a board meeting defeat. An argument started over nothing. I made the mistake of telling her she had no right to speak to my mother that way. She backed me into the kitchen corner, huge frame blocking the light. She didn't hit me then. She did something worse. She picked up the ceramic cookie jar my father had made, the last piece of his handiwork, and hurled it against the wall beside my head. It exploded, shards everywhere. That night I called the police. Officer Mason showed up, guts spilling over his belt. Karen was suddenly sober, calm. "It was an accident," she said smoothly. "I tripped. I was shaking." She threw it at me. Mason sighed. "Did she hit you, miss?" "No." "Then it's her word against yours about a broken jar." "Family, well, neighborhood, dispute. Not enough evidence." He tipped his hat and left. The system I was taught to trust had looked at my terror and called it an HOA matter. I understood then. No one was coming to save me. That night I packed. I left before dawn, funded by cash hidden in a shoebox. My life began at the bus station. I rode 2 days to a city where no one knew my name. The scholarship I secured using the library computer was my anchor. I worked 3 jobs, fueled by caffeine and rage, designing logical systems where cause and effect made sense. No drunk HOA presidents. No silent mothers. No dismissive cops. Only code. Now, standing in that hallway with the ghost of Officer Mason's dismissal echoing, I felt the shift. I wasn't that terrified girl anymore. I hadn't come home to rest. I had come home to enact the final logical conclusion. Without a word, I turned, picked up my suitcase, and walked upstairs to the guest room, my old bedroom, now stripped of personality and redecorated with HOA-approved beige. I locked the door. My cheek throbbed. I unzipped my carry-on and pushed aside clothes. At the bottom, nestled in a hard case, with my laptop and a sleek silver USB drive. This was my real luggage. Everything I needed was on that drive. I plugged it in. Password, Charles Rowan. The folder opened, scanned deeds, bank statements, audio recordings. The crown jewel, a PDF of the property deed for the 5-acre parcel bordering the south edge of the HOA land my father bought as an investment, held in a trust for me. According to county records I had monitored for months, it was still legally mine. Karen was currently using it, storing equipment, letting her developer friends hunt, treating it as her personal piggy bank. She thought she had taken everything. She had no idea I had returned to claim my future, and that the deed was on this drive. She had just slapped the legal owner of the land she was trespassing on. Dinner was a masterclass in psychological warfare. The silence was a 4th person at the table. My mother moved like a ghost. Karen chewed loudly, conquering her food. The throbbing on my cheek was a constant reminder. I ate slowly, observing. My mother spoke first, voice thin. "We thought you wouldn't be coming back." It was an accusation. Karen slammed her fork down. "Don't get comfortable. You have no place here. This neighborhood runs on my rules. You're here on my charity." Charity? The word stank of arrogance. She was declaring ownership of the air I breathed. I didn't respond. Arguing with Karen was like wrestling a pig. Both get dirty and the pig likes it. Instead, my eyes drifted to the blank space on the wall where my father's family portrait used to hang. A deliberate void. That empty rectangle told me everything. This wasn't about rules. It was about erasure. Karen had to annihilate every trace of Charles Rowan to truly own this community. And I was the last stubborn trace. I excused myself, carried my plate to the sink, and felt their hostile stares on my back. Upstairs, the lock clicking felt like sealing an airlock. I opened my laptop. Folder, evidence. The scanned deed, Charles D. Rowan's signature strong and confident. The will, Article 4, Testamentary Trust. The parcel was mine at 25. I was 29. Then the recording. 3 weeks ago with Mr. Whitley, my father's lawyer. It became yours free and clear 4 years ago. You are the sole legal owner. I had asked about Karen using the land. His voice sharpened. Possession can be messy, but you've been paying the taxes. That's your strongest claim. I told him my plan. She will fight you. But do what you must. The slap, the insults, the blank wall, they weren't just attacks on me. They were attacks on my father's memory. Karen thought this was her kingdom. She was about to learn she was just a temporary tenant in my father's world. And the eviction was long overdue. The next morning, I was a ghost in the house. I rose before dawn, old tech job habit. Dark jeans, gray t-shirt, walking shoes. Downstairs, Karen was at the table with the HOA newsletter. My mother pouring coffee. Neither acknowledged me. The slap was now an unspoken pact to be ignored. Fine. I preferred silence. I'm going for a walk, I announced to the empty space. Might check job postings at the library. Plausible cover story, the lost, unemployed daughter. Karen grunted into her paper. My mother nodded without turning. The morning air smelled of damp earth and cut grass. I bypassed the library and headed to the corner Perk Cafe, town gossip hub. I nursed black coffee at a back table and listened. Two men in work boots talked over blueprints. Davies is serious. 80 new homes on that south parcel. The old Rowan land. Karen Thompson's handling the sale for the HOA says it's community benefit. My breath hitched. Arthur Davies, the biggest developer in the county, turning fields into soulless subdivisions. Karen wasn't just using the land. She was secretly selling it. The knot in my gut hardened into diamond rage. I walked to the county courthouse. At planning and zoning, I smiled harmlessly. Graduate student researching rural gentrification. Ran to the clerk's side, but pulled the map. Her finger landed on parcel 7B, my land. Davies Homes Project. Land out there's premium. Heard Karen's deal is north of $850,000. This wasn't poker money. This was grand theft of my inheritance. Back in my room, I created a fake email, Jessica Albright, surveyor with GeoVista Engineering. I sent a polite request for preliminary site plans for discrepancy in elevation data, referencing Karen's submission. Less than an hour later, the PDF arrived. Crude sketch of cul-de-sacs over my father's land. Bottom corner in Karen's block lettering, Thompson/HOA property. The final piece came with a phone call to the recorder's office. Parcel 7B is held in the Charles D. Rowan Trust. Beneficiary Lena M. Rowan. Full control at 25. Then the gut punch. There was a power of attorney filed 3 months ago granting Karen Thompson full authority to act on behalf of the trust, including sale of assets. Signed by the surviving spouse, Carol Rowan. My mother hadn't just been silent. She had actively conspired. She had signed away my father's legacy to the woman who had terrorized me for years. The fury that washed over me felt like peace. The last flicker of hope for my mother was extinguished. There was only the plan. I emailed my Seattle lawyer. It's happening. Buyer is Davies Homes. Forged power of attorney signed by my mother and Karen Thompson. Freeze it now. File lease pinned-ins immediately. Cease and desist to Karen at this address. Notice of superior title to Davies. Cloud the title by end of business. A profound calm settled. The first shot had been fired. For 10 years, I had been a ghost. The legal documents landing on their desk tomorrow would declare I was not only real, I was the one with the power. The explosion came at 2:17 p.m. I was staring at my laptop clock when the landline rang. Karen's voice escalated into a roar I could hear from upstairs. What do you mean the title's clouded? Lease pendants? Who the hell is Elena Silverman? Another pause. Davies is pulling out? That deal was sealed. The phone slammed. Footsteps thundered. The front door slammed. Tires squealed. Silence. I walked downstairs. My mother stood in the kitchen. Hands pressed to her cheeks. Pale. She knew this catastrophe had my name on it. I set 2 sheets of paper on the table. The trust deed, naming me sole beneficiary, and the power of attorney she had signed. Why? Mom. My voice was cold. Clinical. Why did you sign a document giving Karen Thompson power over a trust that was never yours to give? She stammered. Karen had told her it was just a formality for the fines. We both knew it was a lie. I tapped her shaky signature. I've been paying the taxes for 4 years. So I'll ask again. She broke. Tears streamed. You don't understand. The debts the fines Karen kept piling on. She said we'd lose the house. Selling that useless patch of woods was the only way out for us. There is no us, I said, the finality chilling even me. There is you, and there is her, and there is me, the daughter whose inheritance you tried to sell for more than $800,000. Her head snapped up. How did you? I'm my father's daughter. Mom, I do my research. I slid across the forensic comparison of signatures and the highlighted legal paragraph on fraudulent conveyance. The lie about the examiner was seamless. The effect was devastating. She was no longer fighting her daughter. She was implicated in a crime. She reached for my arm. Lena, please don't report this. Karen could go to jail. We'd lose everything. She was begging for mercy she had never shown me, asking me to swallow one last injustice. I looked into her tear-filled eyes and felt nothing. The ghost of a 19-year-old girl with a broken cookie jar stood beside me. What about what she took from me? The question hung, unanswerable. I turned and walked out, leaving her alone with the evidence of her betrayal. I knew Karen would come for me. After leaving my mother sobbing, I went upstairs with cold certainty. The storm had broken. The lightning was still coming. She would have driven somewhere fuming, then called Davies, who coldly informed her the deal was off. Her rage would find its target, me. I positioned my laptop webcam for a clear view of the door. Started a private video meeting with myself, recording. Earbuds in. Dial my lawyer. She knows. The notices were delivered. She stormed out. Elena's voice was calm. Good. That strengthens the case. But Lena, your safety. She's not done. She needs to reestablish physical control. I knew the risk. A restraining order is paper. I needed something undeniable, something Officer Mason couldn't ignore. The car engine cut off. Door schlimm. Heavy footsteps. The front door crashed open. Karen's voice was a primal roar. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. The knob rattled violently. Then shoulder slams. On the third, the wood splintered and the door flew open. Karen stood there, face purple, chest heaving, eyes bloodshot. She saw me at the desk, earbud in, laptop glowing. Who are you talking to? Is that your fancy lawyer ruining my life? I didn't answer. I slowly pulled the earbud, letting Elena's distant voice trickle out. That was confirmation enough. She lunged, knocked my phone to the floor, raised her work boot, and crushed it with a sickening crunch. You think you're so smart. Coming back here, waving Seattle lawyers. This is my neighborhood. It was never your money, I whispered. It was my father's land. The mention of my father was the spark. Her face contorted. The same hand that had welcomed me slapped me hard across the same cheek. White light exploded behind my eyes. Pain radiated, but through it one triumphant thought, I got you. The little green light on the laptop was still on. The camera had seen everything, the forced entry, the destruction, the assault. Karen panted, expecting me to cower. I just stared back, grim calm unnerving her. She backed away. You stay out of my way. This is over. She stomped out, leaving the broken door hanging like a surrender flag. I waited until the car tore away, my cheek on fire, hands shaking, but I was finishing the job. I stopped the recording, attached it to an email to Elena. Evidence. Assault at 8:43 p.m. File for emergency protective order. This is for both civil and criminal. Then the second email to the sheriff. Case 38A91. Rowan. 10 years ago. New evidence. The attached video shows Karen Thompson breaking into my room and assaulting me. This is not a neighborhood dispute. It is a crime. I expect you to do your job this time. I sat in the dark. Only laptop light. My throbbing cheek a testament to the price. I didn't sleep. I waited. At 3:14 a.m., the laptop rang. Incoming video call. Sheriff Mason. Older. Grayer. Unhappy. MS. Rowan and I reviewed the video. We're taking this seriously. We are reopening the original file. No apology. Just a man cornered by truth. The phone call was the beginning. In the stark morning light, I directed the flood. The house was unnervingly quiet. My mother was a wraith. I spent the morning on secure video with Elena. The petition is ready. 4 counts. Quiet title on Parcel 7B. Fraudulent conveyance via the power of attorney. Assault and battery. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. The video is the cornerstone. File everything. I knew it was done. An hour later, A deputy just served Karen Thompson with the summons at the Perk Cafe. He's been requested for questioning. The civil complaint served simultaneously. She's having a very bad day. The court moved fast. A judge granted the emergency temporary restraining order by late afternoon. The papers arrived. My mother's hands shook signing receipt. The order barred Karen from contacting me, coming within 500 feet, and placed an injunction freezing assets, including any attempt to sell or transfer the parcel. She was trapped. Her escape route was legally barricaded. I assembled the evidence mountain. Exhibit A. The video, uglier and more damning than I remembered. Exhibit B. The will and deed. Exhibit C. The fraudulent power of attorney. Exhibit D. The Davies purchase agreement. Price $850,000. Exhibit E. Zoning maps proving the land's strategic value. I hired an independent appraiser. He arrived with drone and laser measure. When he handed me the binder, the fair market value read $1.1 million. I sank onto a fallen log under the oaks. They hadn't just tried to pay off fines. They had tried to steal a future. The preliminary hearing was in a sterile conference room at the county courthouse. I sat beside Elena, files neat. Across the table sat Karen and her court-appointed lawyer. Harried. My mother sat alone, small and broken. Karen's lawyer argued it was a simple neighborhood misunderstanding. Karen, coached, spoke low and respectful. Your Honor, I'm just trying to protect the community. Carol came to me worried about the fines. She said she had the right to handle the land. I was only acting on her authority. She turned to my mother with sorrowful betrayal. My mother's face drained of color. Karen was throwing her under the bus, executing her to save herself. The light in my mother's eyes went out. She was utterly alone. Judge Allison cut through. MS. Thompson, your name is on the purchase agreement. Your sketches were submitted as Thompson/HOA property. And it was you, not Carol, who assaulted MS. Rowan on video. Let's dispense with the fiction. Then to me, MS. Rowan, what is your objective here? I thought of every laptop, phone, necklace sold to cover Karen's fines. I thought of the cookie jar exploding beside my head. I thought of how they had looked at my father's legacy and seen only cash. My purpose, I said, voice steady, is to ensure that no one else can be turned into an asset to pay off a debt the way I was. The room was silent. The judge noted it. Elena presented the evidence with clinical precision. The video played. The only sounds, splintering door, guttural roar, sickening crack of the slap. Karen stared ashen. My mother covered her face. The final judgment came 2 weeks later. I signed the deed transfer at 10:18 a.m. Parcel 7B was unequivocally mine. The court upheld the permanent restraining order, found Karen liable for assault, battery, destruction of property, and deliberate conspiracy to commit fraud. She was ordered to pay damages and punitive penalties that bankrupted her. Criminal charges followed: felony assault, forgery, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Her life as HOA queen was over. Her name was now synonymous with fraud. The most pressing question: what to do with the land? Developers called, including a shamefaced Davies. But standing under the oaks, I saw my father's face in the dappled sunlight. Selling to a bulldozer felt like betrayal. I researched nonprofits and found the Heartland Community Trust. I offered the land for $750,000. My only condition: the community center built there would be named the Charles Rowan Memorial Pavilion. They were ecstatic. The deal closed within a month. After legal fees, I was left with just over $630,000, enough for freedom. I didn't return to Seattle. I wanted to run towards something. I chose Denver. Within weeks, I bought a small modern home near the mountains with a big window overlooking the Rockies, all cash. The public chapter was written by the Bay Ridge Chronicle, Daughter returns to claim ancestral land from fraudulent HOA president. The article cemented the truth. I closed my laptop. Bags packed. Contract and new house keys in hand. At the airport, I moved through security with easy efficiency. I sat at the gate. Back to the windows. A prickling feeling, I turned. My mother stood on the other side of the glass. Small and desolate. She wasn't waving. Just standing, clutching her purse. Our eyes met. I offered no smile. No wave. She must have seen the finality. My new phone buzzed. A message from her number. I'm sorry. 10 years too late and $1 million short. I read it, turned the screen off, and slipped the phone away. Zone 1 boarding for Denver. I stood, slung my bag over my shoulder, handed my one-way ticket. As I walked down the jet bridge, I didn't look back. I settled into my window seat. The plane taxied. Engines roared. And we lifted. Missouri fell away beneath me. Above the clouds, the sky was endless blue. The weight I had carried for 10 years was gone, replaced by something far more precious. Nothing. A profound, beautiful emptiness. A clean slate. I carried no anger, no resentment, no debts. I was just Lena, and I was free.